Hey, what up, everyone? Today we start off with the hot 30, 40 minutes. We're not experts on Bitcoin, so we talked about the process of it, the blockchain, and I got a little bit into the history of it. Then we started to make some comparisons with Johnny Depp, Charlie Chaplin. Then we went on to, have you heard about Adrian's kickback? To Ruby's quinceanera. And we end the show talking about cancellation, Tony Hinchcliffe, and the first time we went to the comedy store. 3, 2, 1. Yo, what up, everyone? Two mics and some theories. You guys know the deal. Pedro, Steven. All right. We should have recorded from the beginning, but I'm just going to do a quick repeat of everything. Last week, I think we said we should talk about Bitcoin, but after everything that's happened, I think we're going to save that for later. And then I was telling Steven that I was looking up a Bitcoin documentary, or I was trying to look one up, and then you said Money Explained? The Netflix one, right?
Yeah, but that also just barely covers it because it's just talking about money in general, how money works.
Yeah, it doesn't go into the specifics of Bitcoin and how it works, I guess, or how it's working now. And okay,
Yeah, super vague. They're just kind of giving you the broad overview of how it all works as a whole. There's another one where they dedicated a whole 3-minute episode to it, but even then, too, there's so much you can't just fit it all in.
Right.
Your best shot at learning everything you could is probably through YouTube, where they break down every single little bit, or like there's a video for everything.
Every individual part of the process is breaking stuff down.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was trying to do, trying to find a documentary that kind of started with how it works, how it was created, how it's intending to work, and then some of the pros and cons. At least that's what I expected. What I found was on YouTube just a little 5-10 videos with, so I kept seeing a couple words come up over and over again. Decentralized, blockchain kept coming up, privacy, anonymity. So all these little terms kept coming up, and 5-minute video on here, 10-minute videos. Then when I finally found documentaries, the one that I found, I expected it to be, okay, so this is how it is. And in the current climate, it's this. This is what it does. It's like this because of this. And maybe even talk a little bit about the stock market, but it was more of a history lesson of the cypherpunks, the cypherpunk movement, cryptocurrency, and then just let then just a little 2-minute, maybe even 5-minute section about Bitcoin. And it was really just more of a history, documentary about cryptocurrency than actual Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what I found. And then you said you were saying something about Bitcoin and what you know about it or what you didn't know about it.
Oh yeah, because you were telling me something about cyberpunks. I have no idea what that is. Anything having to do with encryption and all that, they I would see videos that went over. I'm like, oh cool. I can see how they saw something and say, oh, we can do something else with it, and then start moving another direction with it. But what I really like is how Satoshi saw the bigger picture, where I don't want to be the face of it, and stayed anonymous the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, after he basically did all his work, I forgot what forum it was on, but basically he was just like, all right, guys, this is my last post. Peace. And then just dipped.
Yeah.
Vanished. Then it just reminds me of those cartoons when the world needed him most. He vanished. Where's that Batman?
That's Avatar.
That's Avatar. That is Avatar.
Do you think Satoshi is male, female, or a group?
Huh. I never thought of it.
Because he's anonymous, so it's not anonymous. I know it's a...
It could be a group, but for them to all stay quiet and in sync and not have anybody want to give up information, I find it really hard to believe it would be a group. Maybe it is just one person.
One person that wanted to keep themselves private?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you came across this, but there's videos of the conspiracy theories on who Satoshi is, how they almost found him. And they had this big old court proceedings. And then he was just basically trying to prove that he's not him.
Oh, so did they try to take him to trial?
Sort of, yeah.
Who was the person that they thought it was?
I don't remember. I can't remember his dude's name.
Phil, Tim? No?
No idea.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be able to tell you off the tip of my tongue, but yeah, basically they think Satoshi is this one guy because some things kind of match up, and then there's other things that are no, there's no way it could be him because when Satoshi was doing this fool was doing this. But then also it's kind of hard to pinpoint somebody, their online presence.
Yeah, because they could essentially do anything online.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to get an actual location unless you actually track them, physically track them, or I guess digitally. But I don't think. When did the court case happen?
Had to be a couple years ago.
Oh, this was recent.
Mm,
Recent as in the past 5 years?
maybe.
Past 10 for sure?
Yeah, somewhere in the midpoint between 2009 and 2021.
Okay. Oh, yeah, this is recent.
Maybe
the
during
last-
like the big boom, the first big boom in 2017. I would assume that's when everyone first started having their eyes on it.
Mm-hmm. So there was the one episode where we talked about blockchain and NFTs. And then
we were totally wrong on what the fucking NFT was.
So one of the things I kept that was confusing me was, okay, so this is going to go into blockchain, but it started with NFTs. And I was saying, well, you can make a copy of something. How can it retain its value? If I can make a copy of a picture, then does it really matter? But with the blockchain technology, if you're using the blockchain, then how it was explained was, I think you said ledger. You said it's a ledger, and it writes for Bitcoin specifically. When there's a transaction, it has the buyer, the seller, and the amount. At like the most basic form: buyer, seller, amount. And then for that to happen, there's a private key and a public key. The private key is called the hash, and then the public key is obviously it's what's used to record it. That's the start of a blockchain. It just makes a list, and after one block is done, it goes on to the next one, and everyone confirms that this block is legit. Do you remember what we were talking about with the NFTs? That was my main concern, but do you remember what we were going back and forth about?
I just remember that what we originally thought the NFTs were actually pretty wrong.
Yeah, all I can remember is the security issue. I kept really pushing like the security issue and how can someone not hack it? I remember does this have value was one of the things I was thinking, and how can this not be hacked? And as I was looking into blockchain, or as I was trying to find Bitcoin stuff, I found a lot of blockchain stuff. So for the blockchain, you have miners, which are people, but technically just computers that verify a blockchain. And when they verify it, they get paid in Bitcoin. And that's called mining. And then there's mining farms where it's a bunch of computers essentially verifying blocks and then getting paid in Bitcoin. And the more you have, the more Bitcoin you can essentially make. From what I found, to keep it unhackable, that they do two things. One is a block takes 10 minutes to make. And I said, okay, so what? Then they broke it down and said, okay, if you have the best supercomputer, let's say in 1 year, 2 years, you have a supercomputer that can read and write data super quick, then you can essentially, in theory, get something and change something in the blockchain and be able to get all that data, change it, rewrite it, and therefore it doesn't show up. In theory. But what that 10-minute limit does is prevent that from happening. So there's 10 minutes where a new block can't be made. And that's phase 1, I guess. That's one way it can't be hacked. And the other way is everyone gets to verify it. So meaning the new one also can't be made until everyone on that blockchain, that information gets sent and received and verified.
Mm-hmm.
So that's two ways. And just by those two alone, that's why the blockchain is so formidable, so secure. That's why there's so much faith in it, because it's near unhackable or very, very difficult. That's what I didn't know at the time. I was like, I don't get it. Why can't you just go in, change something, and then change it back? But then I saw these, so I was like, okay, well, that's why you can't do it. Because speed wouldn't matter, because you're limited by 10, and everyone confirming it, that means you have to hack, that means you have to change everyone's thing, which nearly impossible. So I was like, oh, damn, this thing is a lot more secure than I thought. And then again, I'm looking for Bitcoin stuff. I'm like, where's the Bitcoin info? And I found a lot of blockchain stuff. And diagrams really help. You know, when you have those little animations that kind of break it down, those are super helpful. Because then you can actually see, like, here's one chain. And then 10 minutes, everyone verifying. Now the new one. and then it goes into like miners mining, confirming, getting Bitcoin, and then another block. Same thing, and the process repeats, another block and another block.
Mm-hmm.
Which then led into NFTs, where NFTs, they use blockchain, but it's a little different because there's no transaction. Well, I guess there's a transaction, but it's more of the art piece or whatever digital piece you want to, I guess, add a blockchain to. But I didn't look much into how blockchaining works in NFTs, just blockchain in general. The only thing that they really said about NFTs were because it's so new with NFTs that there's room for improvisation, meaning they're experimenting with like, if I made a piece, a digital art piece, then I could put in my Genesis block or my blockchain that every time this gets sold, I get a 2% of whoever sold it. So if I sold it to you for 100, I get 100. If you sold it to someone else, I get 2% of what that.
Mm-hmm.
And that people can add like little, not quotas, but stipulations into it. I was like, oh shit, seems kind of broken. That means if you make an art piece that pops off, then you can add some kind of rule stipulation to it, and then you're essentially, I don't want to say secure for the future, but you have that extra revenue, I guess, into that block, incorporated into that blockchain.
It's just a fancier way of getting royalties.
Yeah. Have you heard anything new about the blockchain?
I feel like you keep referring to it like if it's one thing. It's like one part of the technology. Kind of like how Kleenex is a brand to tissue paper, or like the face tissues, whatever the fuck they call them.
Yeah.
It's sort of that. Like the blockchain is a type of technology because all these other different cryptocurrencies kind of either will use that or use something that built off of that. And then it's different, so it can't run on the same network. So like before, when you're talking about the ledger and how everyone, like every person that confirms either like a transaction on the blockchain, they all get issued the same information. So once they get the information, they all have to confirm it. So that's how it limits anybody trying to hack it, because you can't, like everyone has to confirm the same information.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the end of the last blockchain is connected to the beginning of the first part of the next block.
Mm-hmm.
So there's literally, it's super hard to change anything if you were going to change anything. If you're going to change one transaction, then you have to go back, change that transaction, and change, like redo every single transaction after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it all has to be confirmed. And the way they used to do it was, it's called proof of work. So your mining rigs or whatever, when like they're doing all the transactions, and you're basically showing that you mined it, right?
Yeah.
But now it's a lot of things are starting to change to proof of stake, which means like you can't verify things on the network if you don't have like a vested interest in it. So the only way, like in the future, is going to be you have to be invested into, like you have to put up your own said coin to be able to confirm transactions on that network or on that blockchain.
You know, that reminds when I was looking at the documentary show. Do you know the creator of Ethereum?
Mm-hmm.
It's Vitalik.
Which one? There's two.
Vitalik.
The one that's still there or the one that left?
I don't know. I just know he was.
It's probably Vitalik, the one that left.
He's 29. At the time of the documentary, he was 27. I think right now he's 29.
Mm-hmm.
Russian Canadian. And he was saying he does a lot of speeches, kind of like Gary Vee. He does like speeches talking about Ethereum. And they asked him a question about same thing, like the security, the same questions I had, like security, safety. What are they trying to do? And he was saying they can't stop cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And he was talking about governments, like governments can't stop it. But what they can do is try to restrict people from using the blockchain, or they could try to change the blockchain. Mm-hmm. Where it's like they can't stop the movement, but they could stop parts of it to slow people down or to restrict people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that reminds me of, that they can't really stop it, but they're trying to like restrict it to make it, harder for it to, I guess, flourish.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, because that dude split off from Ethereum and started working on another one,
Mm-hmm.
the Cardano ADA coin. The stuff that they're starting to like implement is like beyond what I can kind of understand right now, but I think the future is bright for that.
Then even with Ethereum, I still don't really. So when they were talking about, they were saying that like Bitcoin is used. It's trying to be like a digital currency, but there's other applications to it, obviously with NFTs. But when they were talking about Ethereum, they said that it's not really competing with Bitcoin specifically because they're trying to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't really go into what they were trying to do. It just says Bitcoin is trying to do this, be like a currency, but Ethereum is trying to do something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they didn't go into it, but they just mentioned it.
The only like analogy I guess that I can think of right now, so like let's say cryptocurrencies as a whole would be like World War II.
Okay.
And Bitcoin is like what's happening in one part of the world, like that main like 2 countries or 3 countries in battle.
Yeah.
And Ethereum is like what's happening literally in like so if something's happening in Europe, Ethereum is what's happening in Asia, and it's all part of the same war. You can categorize it in World War whatever, but they're 2 different conflicts, and they're in 2 different places,
Hold on,
like one at the same time.
Let me go in for that loop. They're 2 different battlefronts fighting the same war.
And there's so many like little details to get into of like things that led up to it, things that people are trying to have as the outcome, like smart contracts, people converting from the Ethereum network onto the Cardano network. There's so many things that are variables at this that kind of us being so broad about it, like barely scratching the surface. We would have to basically be like decide like, you know what, we're gonna just turn this into a dedicated cryptocurrency podcast.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure how it, like the details of how it works, it's probably 10, 20 times more complicated because there's data and code and there's probably things that can go wrong. And just anytime you're dealing with computers, it can be frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But the history stuff was super interesting because then it did go into like...
I like the history stuff. It's sick, but I feel like if they were able to make like some type of movie about it,
mm-hmm.
where it's not like, not documentary style, but more action packed of like this story of leading up to how, kind of like, you know how, like we all know the story of Eminem.
Yeah.
And when they brought out 8 Mile, it was basically the story of Eminem before he got to be Eminem.
Mm-hmm.
If they did the story like that, of like Satoshi before, you know, the big whole crypto boom that happened a couple years ago, that would be sick.
I think they're waiting a bit to see like how like Bitcoin and crypto plays out before they make something. Because I feel like right now we're like in the middle.
We're still early, everybody. Get in now.
I don't want to, we're definitely not in the beginning, but I also don't think we're at the end. I think we're either somewhere in like the beginning of the middle or in the middle. Somewhere still the beginning.
We're early, baby.
Oh yeah,
we're early. Fuck, I forgot what the number is, but the number of the percent of people that are adopting using cryptocurrencies is still super low in comparison. It's super low.
Oh, I guess a big part of it is that they don't know what crypto is, but I really just think it's a computer aspect of it that a lot of people
that people don't have access to. Basically, people don't have access to it. More institutions are starting to implement, like, oh, now you can buy Bitcoin. So like when PayPal started doing it, Robinhood started doing it, Cash App started doing it, more people have those apps. Are like, oh, shoot, I can buy that. Because you couldn't just walk into your bank and be like, oh, hey, let me buy some Bitcoin. Like you can go be like, oh, I want to buy a bond. I want to buy a CD. I want to buy something to put my money in. Like it's going to start being easier to get it, to use it, how companies are starting to accept it as payment. Adoption is going to start growing even more.
Do you think that'll happen after, I guess, the cryptocurrency stabilize? Because it seems real like prone to fluctuate up and down right now. Think they'll adopt it sometime when it's like in the while it's still fluctuating, they'll just have so much faith in it that they'll get it, or once it like stabilizes and people see that it's viable.
What do you define as stabilizes?
Doesn't that's true. I don't know what stability means, but I guess I could say volatile as in it dips. The value of it dips significantly.
But that happens in everything, even in stocks.
Yeah, I'm saying
because like with these, a couple days ago, we had a fucking $10,000 drop off, and it looks disgusting on the charts if you're looking at it at the one, like if your chart's labeled as 1 day or 1 week, it looks disgusting. But if you zoom out, that drop isn't shit. You're still up like 400% from the beginning of the year.
And I think that's very rational, but I think most people would freak out because of that.
And that's why they all panic sold.
Yeah.
And I bought the dip, baby.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm like just talking about like how people would view it. I think if you know,
most people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's why.
I don't know what I'm doing.
But I think most people that have some understanding of it know like, yeah, it's down, but it'll go back up, so don't worry. But I think most people will see it that it's down and would be like, oh shit, I just lost 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever. I gotta sell, get my money back. I think most people would panic sell or just, they would let their emotions take over and I think that's what most people do. And the people that don't do it would be the people that profit. But because it does that, I think that stops a lot of people from getting into it because they're like, well, I don't really know too much about it and my money, I don't want to lose. And then one day I'm up and they just don't take the time to understand it. And because they don't, then they don't have, I don't want to say faith in it, but they don't want to get into it because they're like, this isn't, I'd rather just use like a regular dollar instead of get into this new thing that I don't really know.
And because people don't want to do research, they just want to watch TikToks about it.
Wait, they make TikToks about, I'm sure someone does, right? Someone has to.
That's how people get their information now. They're like, oh, did you know? And it's all crammed into 1 minute.
Yeah. Oh, speaking about like, not TikTok, but just people as in like everyday people, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, they were more, their actions had more thought in them than since 2000, since in the past 20 years.
People now have more thought?
No,
people back then.
People back then, before they made some kind of action, they like sat down to think about what they were doing.
Kind of hard to say. We weren't there.
I know I go back and forth because I don't really, I want to say yes, but then again, I don't really have anything to base that off of other than what I know now. But because of what I see now, it's kind of biased.
Yeah, it's biased because I see the way I see it now. I would still categorize us as on the younger side.
Yeah.
And
I'm the youngest one in here.
You're right. The way I see it, I feel like since we are on the younger side and the way I am, I kind of more or less just do, I don't think, but that's because it's easier for us to do things now. Things are more accessible for us to just make a move. Whereas back then, I don't think they had it as easy in terms of like what they could do. Like if somebody wanted to dip and go to another city, start a life there, I feel like that's probably more planning into that.
Yeah.
Because now, dude, we can do everything on our phones. Just be like, you know what? Fuck this. Pedro, I quit. Keep all the podcast revenue. I'm outie.
And then I would say,
jump in the roller and then just bounce. I'm going to go live in Miami, baby. And then
it's open.
Drive 3 days, get to Miami. Even if I don't have a plan, be like, oh, well, guess what? Airbnb.
Yeah. You could always just, whatever you needed, if you have a phone, you just look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Look up place to stay, place to eat, transportation, where to go, where not to go. Pretty much everything.
Yeah. Well, basically, your money's on your phone.
Oh, that too. If you have like a digital wallet.
Everything, yeah. For some reason, I'm just thinking like the 50s, 60s. To carry around a fucking map.
If they even carried around maps, I think you would even have to buy a map.
Yeah, you have to stop at the gas station to get the map for that region. Yeah, fuck that. Then you have to like study it, draw the fucking line.
Well, you would have to know how to even read the map.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this means there's a hill here. This is over here. And the little icons. And then even like, have you ever used a compass?
Yeah.
So when I think 5, 6 years ago, I was looking up how to use a compass, and I thought it was easy. In my head, I was like, okay, it points north. I look north. I go north, and I was like, easy, done. I just and then like in my head, I made it easier. I made it super easy. I was like, okay, I can take out a map, and if I see a mountain, I should look where the mountain is. I look at what's the sign on the map that tells you the direction? There's a term for it. The north, southwest, whatever it is. You just look at that, look at your compass, match them up, and then go. But then as I started to look in like how to actually use it, there's I guess the magnetic pull of the earth. Like depending on the region that you are, you have to adjust a little bit, like +5 degrees, +6 degrees. Because if you're in one region, yeah, you do look north to go north, but depending on if you're to the west or the east, as in of like the United States, you might have to go slightly 5 degrees left or 5 degrees right, and and it might not be like, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you're actually traveling, 5 degrees left or 5 degrees right can take you like 20, 30, 40, 50 miles, like where you actually want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're out in the wilderness, that could be a big like life or death difference.
Yeah. I just use the compass that Jack Sparrow has, and it just takes me to where the closest thing my heart desires.
The thing you want the most?
Yeah.
Okay. That was I like that idea that he had that compass. That was very cool. Wait, did you see all the Pirates of the Caribbean?
No. I haven't seen probably the last two.
You remember when the first 2 or 3 came out, was there hype behind them? I think there was a lot of hype behind the first one. Definitely by the second one, it was super popular. And by the third one,
good.
Yeah.
They were just fun movies. The shit that he would get himself into, and then dun 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 dun, and every time he's running away from people with his funky ass walk and run.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was tight.
Do you think people now view Jack Sparrow how people back then would view Charlie Chaplin? As kind of like he's doing dangerous things but making it funny? Well, Jack Sparrow's obviously more of like the pirate type, and I think Charlie Chaplin, from what I've seen, he's trying to be more of like a regular person / comedian type.
I've never actually really seen something Charlie Chaplin has done.
Have you seen that speech that he gives? I don't even know when it was, but he gives like a motivational speech kind of.
No.
I think he's wearing I want to say it was during World War II, but I don't know if it could have been shot like years after that. He's wearing some kind of officer's uniform or something, and you've seen videos about Charlie Chaplin. He's kind of funny and goofy, but in this one he got real stern and serious.
I didn't know he talked. I thought he was a mime.
That's why it was weird, because he got real stern and serious, and he was just he gave like a super like heartfelt, passionate speech about like people and society. And I think it starts off, I forgot how it starts off, but there's one point where he's like, oh, we think too much and we feel too little. And real serious and stern.
Jeez.
A lot of emotion that went into that one, which was the opposite of what you would think Charlie Chaplin is. Well, which is the opposite of how you mostly saw him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know much about Charlie to begin with. And then Johnny I just know him by his movies. I don't know of anything he did outside of his acting besides that. Oddly enough, that lawsuit that he's going through with that abusive ex-wife or ex-girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I know the vaguest details.
Yeah.
What did you think of Charlie?
What?
What made you think of Charlie and Johnny?
They both go into these serious situations, but they make them kind of funny. Kind of like when Johnny Depp or Jack Sparrow is obviously being attacked, but then the like playful music, orchestra music is playing in the background, and he's moving, kind of dancing around, and you fools, you thought you had me, but remember, I am Captain Jack Sparrow. And then he's kind of like, it's a serious, intense fight, but the music and his character don't match the scene, which is fine. That's the character he is. He's like this mostly like funny kind of character with a couple like real serious moments. And I would think that's how people saw Chaplin, as like mostly this funny kind of character, but every once in a while there's these real serious moments.
Hmm.
You know, it just kind of connected the two. And I was thinking, is Jack Sparrow our modern day Chaplin? In the pirate genre, obviously.
In other news, how was Adrian's kickback?
Oh man, that thing was super fun. No, I don't, so I saw it on Twitter. I saw it trending, and I was like, Adrian, who's Adrian? So I went on the timeline. I clicked on. I was like, okay, and all I kept seeing was, "Yo, you going to Adrian's kickback? Adrian's kickback. This y'all coming?" And so I was looking for a picture to see who Adrian was. Like, who the fuck is Adrian? And after like a minute or two, I was like, okay, whatever. On to the next thing. And I never really figured out what that was. So what is it?
Okay, so I first saw it on Food's Gone Wild. They're like, hey, y'all going to Adrian's kickback? And I'm like, the fuck is this? And the hashtag was Adrian's kickback. So then I'm like, all right. And then Food's Gone Wild just kept posting videos of people being like, all right, like driving crazy, and then on my way to Adrian's kickback. And I was like, oh, okay, this is probably some like TikTok trend. So I clicked the hashtag, and literally there's just videos and videos of like people crossing the river, being like, fuck it, we're illegal, but at least we're gonna make it to Adrian's kickback. And just people are just making funny videos of how like them on their way, like people from fucking Vegas. Somebody was getting off a plane, like, oh, I just got off the flight on my way to Adrian's kickback.
Yeah.
It's funny how people just took this and roll with it. And apparently it was just like some kid named Adrian posted invitation on TikTok, I believe, just said Adrian's kickback, the date, and it was at the Huntington Beach Fire Pits, Tower something. Pretty much like the city of Huntington Park was like, got wind of it, and they made this Twitter announcement like, hey, we're gonna be monitoring and patrolling the area. They eventually just barricaded off the whole beach.
Yeah,
it was crazy. And it reminded me of do you remember a couple years ago when we went to La Quinceanera de Ruby?
Was that another one?
Some Mexican dad made a video and posted it on YouTube, basically like, like Mexican dudes talk with their fucking sombreros and shit.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
All in Spanish, like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a good time. So if you want to come, la quinceañera de mi hija Ruby. Basically gave the address of the place.
Oh,
of where it's gonna be, and it shit went viral. Pretty much people did the same thing, and then apparently like a shitload of people showed up to that party. And but like, I think that was like the first instance of that ever happening.
Yeah.
And it was funny because people just would post like their outfits of what they're wearing to this place. And I don't know, I just like seeing that shit. Stuff like that. Like those trends. There's another one I saw. Apparently he's like this big TikToker. Every video he posts is like him. It's just of his face, and he's just delivering news. Like if he's a news anchor, like he's reading off of a prompter, teleprompter machine, and he just giving you the news straightforward, no gimmicks or whatever. And then apparently for May 5th, the Star Wars Day.
Yeah.
May the
4th.
May the 4th. He's like, hey guys, today is my birthday, and because it's my birthday, I can introduce you to my girlfriend.
Happy Star Wars Day, everyone. Today is also my birthday. And because it's my birthday, I get to introduce you to my girlfriend, who is amazing.
So it's him and then his girl just in the frame. And people ran with that shit.
Whoa, is this actually
that's a real video. It's actually his girlfriend.
Okay, gotcha.
And people ran with that video where you can splice it and add your own video to it. So people were like literally continuing the frame. So it was just him and the girl, and then the next frame was him and the girl, and somebody spliced themselves wearing the red shirt, holding a gun.
Yeah,
to the girl's head. And it just went on to the point where like they did the whole body. They did there was a cop outside the door knocking, trying to get in. They were outside of the house. Somebody wasn't, like the detective was on the megaphone trying to talk him down, and people just kept splicing into they made the news. Yeah, it made that there was snipers on the next building across the roof. Just like, oh, it was the funniest thing. And I just like videos like that when people just like add their own little thing to it.
Yeah, and then when they get other people involved, like naturally involved, like they just want to post it because they think it's funny. Yeah, it makes it 10 times better. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I just thought it was just some dude that just happen to post a video and either luckily or unluckily people just fucking made that shit go viral. But my brother told me like, nah, this dude actually has like a big following, and all he does is deliver news.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh shit, cool. Like, what I would have liked to see is like to see how he, like him reacting to that, like the video of all the spices together, and see if like he was a good sport about it.
Yeah.
I guess I'll give you one more example. There's this TikTok girl who's like super buff.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a little girl. She's super buff and she does gymnastics, and she does all the TikTok dances. But because she has super swole arms, there's this one dance where you have to like throw a punch.
Okay.
So she does that, and then the video immediately cut to somebody walking, getting hit, and then like throwing themselves across the the room. And so she was reacting to one that somebody spliced together. The dude like makes it look like he got hit, runs into the wall, and he goes, "Oh, what the fuck?" And you only see part of his face, and she's just like, "Okay, I've seen this one before." And then he turns his face, and his face is all like swollen and like there's, it looks like he has a bunch of surgery scars.
Mm-hmm.
Like and she goes, "Oh shit," and she started laughing.
Yeah.
So I like those when people can take a joke. Unlike the people that try to cancel Tony Hinchcliffe.
Saw like headlines of it that he made some kind of bad joke or something, and then that people were just taking it wrong. I don't know what specifically happened in that situation.
It was a show Tony was doing. He brought an opener who happened to be Asian. That dude introduced Tony. Tony went on, did his set. The Asian dude that he brought with him, that introduced him, recorded his set and then posted it online saying, you know, hashtag Asian Awareness Month or whatever.
Wait, recorded his own set or recorded Tony's set?
Both. Yeah, basically threw Tony under the bus.
Because of the jokes he was making?
Mm-hmm. So, cause
okay,
it wasn't like a theater show where he was performing an hour, getting ready to like record a special. It was like one of those comedy club shows where you go on, you have a 10-minute spot where you're working out material. You know, maybe he was working on some jokes and whatever. But apparently the video that the dude posted wasn't a full video, which is the clip of like, I would say out of context. Right. It just sounds really bad. And then Ari Shafir uploaded the whole thing. It was like the whole video where you see the dude paying. You see his set. He introduces Tony, and then Tony goes and he's just going, and people are laughing. But then some of it was more like freestyle, like he was in the zone trying to just rip off of what was going on. But what I didn't get is that the Asian dude that brought him up was literally making fun of Asians too.
Yeah, but I think most people
find that okay because he's Asian.
Yeah, I think most people would be like, "Oh, it's kind of like when the black guy says the N-word. It's like, okay, you can say it, but you can't. You over there can't say it."
Like, yeah, let me make fun of Asians and Mexican and shit. And then get mad when Tony goes on. I mean, to be fair, the part where he says chink I was like, oh, damn. Risque. But
yeah, he's probably just working it out. And I think, well, actually, I don't know. Was he trying to use that word as like a shock thing with like some comedy to it? You know, sometimes you'll say like someone who never cusses, it's funny when they say a cuss word because they never cuss. But if they time it right, it can be 10 times more funnier.
Mm-hmm.
You think
maybe?
You think he was trying to do that? Find that like 10 times more funnier spot?
Maybe. I wouldn't say like I'm on top of it, but like I watch podcasts where people that are associated with Tony talk about the issue, and they were saying like, bro, every other comic that was on that show was saying that Tony has done that set multiple times before, where it's killed. It was just this specific time. Maybe it was the crowd. Maybe he switched it up somehow, and it didn't work, and it just happened to look bad, real bad.
Yeah, and because there was no laughter, it made it, or not as much laughter as it usually is, it made it look worse.
Mm-hmm. It kind of sounded like more uncomfortable laughter, like, oh shit, you're really going in on this.
Yeah. Was the opener his opener, or was it that club's opener?
His opener. He brought him on. It's not like Brendan and Chappelle, where Brendan was always bringing Chappelle.
Mm-hmm.
It was more he gave this dude a shot to do like that 1 minute comedy bit on Tony's podcast.
Mm-hmm.
They do a section where like they pull names out of a hat, and you have 1 minute to do a comedy, and then they basically either roast you or critique you or tell you did good or whatever. And then that's how he found them, and then brought him on the road with them a couple times.
Oh, okay. The Kill Tony, I know it's the YouTube one, right? Where I think they're sitting.
It's like a live podcast, but they record it and they're doing, the podcast stuff. And then at one point there's a section where they pull names out of a hat, and he basically gives you a shot to come and do stand up in front of them and see if you can make them laugh and stuff.
Yeah, he's giving them a shot to shine, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How's it looking now?
Not good for Tony. His label or management dropped him, which is kind of shitty. And then, I don't know. I feel like most comedians were pussies about it. They were saying more the politically correct thing, like, oh yeah, it's not okay to do that, to talk about it. But they were defending him, saying like, oh, maybe like it's his, if it's his set, he was working it out. It was, and maybe he was trying some new things out.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the whole video, and I saw that same dude also making fun of Asians. It was kind of like, And then they got into like that golden rule of comics where you don't throw each other under the bus. Like why are you recording his set and then you posting it? But then they also were like, oh, I don't know if he actually went up to Tony and be like, hey, that set makes me uncomfortable, or if he just went and shotgunned it out.
Yeah.
There's a lot we don't know. And it's not like I'm like, oh, fuck it, let me call Tony and hey, bro, what happened? We're kind of just giving our opinions on the outside looking in. But it fucking sucks. Because I like Tony. That dude's funny.
I don't know if the first time I went to the comedy club, the comedy store. I don't know if I saw him. We didn't see him, did we? Who's the one that always hosts? The one that is big into conspiracies? Sam Tripoli.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I still remember to this day. It was my first time there, and I remember you saying, "Oh shit, there's Sam Tripoli," and I said, "Who?" And for like 2 minutes, I was looking around. I was like, "Who is it?" He's like, "He's right there. Look, he's about to pass us. He's about to pass us." And then he passed us. I said, "Oh, who?" And then now that I've seen him, I still haven't seen him do a set. I've seen him like in podcasts mostly
because he was like hosting the show, so he would come up and do like 2 minutes and then bring up the next person, then come back up, try out another couple jokes, and then
I don't remember that night, but I have like ever since you pointed him out, now like I remember, oh, that's the first person I saw.
Who did we see? We saw Rogan. We saw.
I don't know if it was that night, but I've seen him once. I don't remember if it was that night or another night.
Because I think the next time we went was just for Ari's.
Oh, that's
Ari's
right.
Hour.
Oh, and then he was going off on the couple in the front.
Yeah.
Oh, is that how he always is?
Well, if they talk, I mean, most comedians are gonna come at you.
There was 2 girls and a guy. And they were talking, right? They were talking to each other. It looks like, I think by the end of it, one of them were crying, but I don't know if they were crying because of there was like tension between them or because he was calling him out. I think it was a combination of both. I think they had, I don't know, they had like some kind of beef with each other, like some argument or something. Couple argument or friend argument or something was going on. But yeah, they kept trying to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Which is kind of annoying also because they were sitting right in the front, like front center almost. So I'm kind of glad he went off on them. But then I felt kind of bad when I saw one of them crying. And I don't think it was because of him specifically. Just a combination of him, the beef, whatever beef they were going, and just like the whole crowd. But either way, they should have just left and talked outside whatever was going on.
For real. Shoot. Who else did we see?
I don't remember. I just remember.
I don't remember the lineup.
I remember seeing them to that night.
But it was like a sick lineup. Or like it being our first show. Actually, not even our first show. That's like, I think the second time we went to a comedy show together.
Oh.
The first time was in high school.
Yeah.
But that one was like, eh.
Yeah, I didn't really know what was going on. And it was by Universal. I felt like it was more cool to be there than the actual jokes that they were telling. It just felt cool being in there.
Yeah. They made it seem like we had the hookup to get in.
Well, didn't we get the tickets for free?
I don't know how we got the tickets, but I remember somebody called somebody and then they had to let us into the side door.
Didn't Ivis let us in? Because he was working there at the time?
Was it him?
Yeah, I don't know if he let us in, but he gave us the tickets.
Oh, maybe.
I think he gave you the tickets and then you invited me. Huh.
I don't remember.
Anyways.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else you want to say?
No, not really.
Then we'll save the Bitcoin talk for like the specifics of it another day. When something dramatic happens, when there's a reason to actually go into it. Not just when there's a crash or a big up and, oh, you should do this, invest now. Listen, what we know is here, we know money. And when you make money, sometimes you got to spend money. So if you buy our course on Bitcoin, we can teach you how to be a millionaire. Are there courses on Bitcoin? There has to be, right? Yeah, I knew it. Well, anyway, I think we'll just end it there. If you have nothing else, then neither do I. So thank you for watching, who's ever watching. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you watch, anywhere else, or on the socials. And I think that's it. Bye.
Peace.